Ian Duncan Smith, when he was boss of his party, when he was the Tory party leader, he wasn't really that popular. Indeed, as you heard Michael Fallon say earlier, he was at a conference, a Conservative conference, that he then realised that he wasn't going to be able to carry on as leader. Since then, he's reinvented himself. He is the Tories' welfare reform man, and he's now something of a conference darling as a result, because his reforms are very popular with the party. Indeed, polls suggest they're also popular with the country. He spoke to the conference earlier this morning. Let's hear what he had to say.
I assure you that at a time when the British public are having to tighten their belts because of our difficult economy, and the European Commission comes knocking on my door to order me to open up the benefit system to benefit tourists and pay them benefits as and when they arrive, regardless of whether they work, I have a very simple answer for them. No, no, no. Because as we gather here in Manchester, all of us should be reminded that not far from these buildings we are in now were streets under siege just 2 months ago. We saw the best and the worst of Britain. At night, a violent minority intent on crime. By morning, the majority clearing up, helping with each other in their communities, and leading the fight back. There is no justification, there never can be, and there never will be, for what happened on those nights. And that is why it is right that punishment is decisive and swift. Yet, beyond that, we should recognize there is a depressing and a familiar context to what we saw. That is the steady rise of an underclass in Britain, a group too often characterized by chaos and dysfunctionality and governed by a perverse set of values. Yet these problems aren't new. We have been reporting on them since I founded the Centre for Social Justice 7 years ago. Every now and then they reappear. Just think of murdered Rhys Jones, Gary Newlove, and baby Peter, kidnapped Shannon Matthews, and tortured Fiona Pilkington, and many, many others, innocent victims of a broken, damaging culture, a culture that generates a growing pocket in each of the communities of deprivation. Pockets in which social housing, once a support for families working hard to give their children a better start, has too often become a place for intergenerational worklessness, hopelessness, and dependency. And the riots serve as a pertinent reminder to us all about the deep and clear social problems that this government inherited when we came to power. Remember, before the recession began, we had over 4 million people stuck on out-of-work benefits, many for a decade or more. We had one of the highest levels of unsecured personal debt in Western Europe. We had widespread family breakdown, one of the highest teenage pregnancy rates in the whole of Western Europe. Poor parenting, transmitting dysfunctionality from one generation to the next. At the CSJ, we found that half of all children today, born today, will experience family breakdown by the age of 16. That is a shocking statistic. And too often, these children attended schools where their aspirations were suffocated within a culture of low expectations. Social mobility had virtually ground to a halt, and the section of society on the lowest incomes has become static and too often entrenched. Too many children born into such communities find that at best they remain in the same condition as their parents as they grow older. And at the same time, almost a fifth of all households are workless, and spending on working-age welfare rocketed by 50% before the recession. That is a remarkable statistic. And we found that over 1 million children had parents addicted to drugs or alcohol. Imagine, what hope for those children, other than to become users and abusers in their turn? And from there, of course, it's just a short walk to the revolving door criminal justice system. With income equality at the worst for a generation, the last government left us with a welfare system which treated symptoms, not causes. And to each person, in a sense, it said, you're financially better off out of work, you're better off if you play the system, and if you are bringing up children, you are better off apart. What kind of message was that to Britain? Is it any wonder? Is it any wonder that we face such entrenched levels of family breakdown, inactivity, and a sense of deep entitlement? Ending this failure, ending this sense of entitlement, is like turning a supertanker around. But we must and we will deliver that change. Now remember, last year, when we came to conference, I and my colleagues promised that we would tackle that problem head-on. So, first, as Chris said, we promised we would confront worklessness and our benefit system that had been nurtured for far too long. So our work program is now giving new skills to people from the jobs market. The voluntary and private sectors engaged to pay and being paid only, and this is critical, only when they get people back to work and as they help people sustain it by developing the work habit. They are delivering value for money. It's not just a case of the big society, but it is a case of the big society now getting people back to work, a major success, and ending the something-for-nothing culture. Promise made, promise delivered. And second, we also promised to deal with the problem of long-term sickness benefit, too often abused as an excuse for being out of work. Our work capability assessment will review 1.5 million people on incapacity benefit, many who have been written off and abandoned, and 115,000 have already been through this assessment. Those genuinely unable to work will, of course, always be supported. However, those who can work will look for work and join the work program, and others who could work in the future will actually get the tailored support for once that they need. With more and more of those once parked on permanent out-of-work benefits, seeking work or in work, conference, that is a promise made and a promise delivered. Third, as David Freud said earlier on, we promised to build a universal credit, the most radical change to benefits in a generation. And the current system, a mess of multiple benefits paid at varying rates, is open to widespread abuse. The result is massive error and fraud, costing our country an almost unbelievable £5 billion, wasted. Worst of all, some people lose up to 96 pence of every pound earned in work because of the way their benefits are withdrawn. Now imagine, would anybody here in this hall work if they were having to pay 96% in taxes, especially if they could earn a living by doing nothing at all? No wonder people are tempted to sit at home. And universal credit will ensure that you will always be better off in work than out of it, and it will mean taxpayers get value for money. Just imagine, at last, a system of benefits that places work at the heart of that system. What a remarkable turnaround, and that is what we will deliver. Which is why for fit for work, I have a very simple message. Work with us to find and stay in employment, and you will get all the support that we can muster. However, failure to seek work, to take work, or to stay in work, and you will lose your benefits. This is our contract with the British people, to bring an end to the something-for-nothing culture that is a promise we made and a promise we are delivering. But this brings me really to one of the most important issues facing our country: the role of the family. Now, this isn't about government interfering or finger-wagging in family life. It's about government recognizing that stable families, stable two-parent families, are vital for the creation of a strong society. It's about parents taking responsibility for their children, and we saw the results when that doesn't happen back in August. And it's about government realizing that we have to create a level playing field for the decisions people make about their families. This means reversing the biases against stability that we've seen build up too often in the system. Build up over recent years, including the damaging financial discouragement to couple formation. And we also need to make sure that support is available when families need it most. And that is why I intend our welfare reforms that I've already laid out, that these welfare reforms make an impact on the couple penalty where it matters most, amongst families on the lowest incomes. And furthermore, remember, the Prime Minister has made it clear that in this Parliament, the government will recognise marriage in the tax system. That is a promise.